purpose of the module really was to get the students to understand that everything is a performance. Everything we do is comprised of words, comprised of behaviours, and all of those words and behaviours that we do or we speak, we were born into them and we learned how to do them. So if we look at things as a performance, it means that we can do them differently. Teaching as a performance, that means that we can make choices about how we do our teaching. When they do teaching, they go into a system in which how to be a teacher precedes them. But that within those confines that they can make choices, that they can decide in some ways how to perform teaching. I've done this module a number of times before, and the biggest number I've had was 16. This time I had 26. And I did it by getting them to write and perform their own play scripts. So they were writing about themselves. And as they began to write their scripts, they began to change.
I'm 22 now, and the year is 2024. And I'm not ashamed or embarrassed. Sometimes I'm still on the outside.
Everyone has their story, and I think digging into your story and reflecting on the past, it makes you who you are, but it's also very challenging looking back on that.
Look it, I'm after running out of cider trap there. What'll I do? Yeah? Go out to the yard, of course. Right, no, I'll take out the loader there. No hassle. Right, okay, good luck.
Teaching is a performance when you think about it. You're up at the top of the classroom. Your class are like your audience. You have to kind of keep them engaged. You have to make sure that they are encouraged. So through performance, through this module so far, through the practicality of it, I find that I am being able and I'm being encouraged to do that. I find that you're not only listening, but you're also you're working together as a team to kind of develop and build on your skills as a teacher.
I knew I was going to be pushed out of my comfort zone. I knew I was going to be challenged. I knew it would be probably a lot of discussions and a lot of group work and a lot of sharing of ideas. It's really nice to be able to hear other people's stories and hear about other people's lives and be able to give constructive feedback in a really safe way.
I was kind of expecting to be, say, studying performance or say reflecting on performance rather than ourselves as the performer, which is kind of daunting task in terms of kind of looking at ourselves.
I imagined such words escaping my own mother's mouth as I chose to do what I had been dreading. Exhale. Ma'am, I'm bisexual. I know. Who was I kidding when I said bisexual? I mean, I'm as gay as Christmas.
I always like to bring people in from the outside. Always like working with theatre artists. I always think when you bring people from outside the system into education, you're always going to bring in new perspectives.
So I suppose what I did with the students was to involve myself in the workshops and in the lectures from the very beginning of semester, attending them all, working with all the students on their play scripts. So I come from a theatre background, and these are all obviously students trying to be primary school teachers, so it was kind of a meeting of different backgrounds and different schools of thought.
External help and kind of external insight, it's very good in terms of we're constantly gaining additional information, additional support each week, and that can really help us in terms of addressing our script.
Me, I've never written a script, so it seemed quite daunting. I think the support each week and how progressive, it's like amazing to see, even looking back at week 1 when I thought my story wasn't interesting, how it's developed and building upon that. I did it. I'm here. That's an accomplishment in itself, isn't it? Well, my journey to here might be over, but my journey to finding confidence still continues. I will, ma'am. I'll try mind myself.
It's a fresh pair of eyes. I've not worked with them before. They've not worked with me before. Also, they're getting a specialism in as well. You know, we're all educators in a different way, but they're getting a director to look at their work, and probably the way I would look at their work will be different to the other people in the room.
You know, these stories meant a good deal to these students, so as a playwright to come at it with that respect of this is your work is value, this is the creative process, so we're going to mould this, we're going to develop this, and we're going to make it as good as it possibly can be. Also within constraints. It has to be 5 minutes long, which means we have to kill our darlings, it means we have to stick to our structure, it means we have to get rid of anything that isn't serving the purpose of this scene.
I think by bringing the outside in, it keeps me on my toes. It makes me fresh. It disturbs me. It makes me up my game, and also it brings disturbance to the classroom, and it changes things.
It was just really humbling, the talent and the fact that every single one of those students has a story to tell, and to find that story. That was really interesting.
The performances that the students came up with in the end, even though there were 26 of them, were every bit as good as in previous iterations of the module.